And go ahead and start announcing them while they're loading their presentation. We've got Steve Burt, Alyssa Randall, both from Planning Communities, along with Brandon Watson from the City of Raleigh. Steve got his bachelor's in economics from the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, and his master's in transportation policy, operations, and logistics from George Mason University in Arlington, Virginia. He spent 3 years working as a research assistant at ITRI and at NC State, and has worked as an economic analyst for Planning Communities for the past year. Steve conducts economic and fiscal analyses that include evaluating how transportation investments impact their region's economies and their residents' quality of life. He has conducted efficiency reviews, revenue-generating studies, and economic contribution, economic impact, and cost-benefit analysis for transit, rail, bike ped, ferry, and highway investments in North Carolina. Alyssa received her BS in Geography and undergraduate certificate from GIS from ECU, and her MS in Geoscience and grad certificate in GIS from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. There she mapped the nesting patterns of loggerhead sea turtles, and her graduate work earned her the Herb Stout Award at this conference 2 years ago. She served as a sea turtle biologist for North Carolina Coastal Reserve in Masonboro Island and the Bald Head Island Conservancy. She now works for Planning Communities in Raleigh, conducting environmental impact analysis mapping for transportation projects. Brandon's with the City of Raleigh. Brandon attended Appalachian State and graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Community and Regional Planning and Geography. Brandon worked previously with the Crash Program in Traffic Engineering with the City of Raleigh for about 3 years. He's been working as a transit planner for the City of Raleigh Transit for about 1.5 years. He helps plan bus route changes and heading into the new Wake Transit Plan, as well as dealing with existing bus stop data, including GIS, route planning information, and adding or maintaining passenger amenities. So please welcome our next speakers.
Thank you very much, Austin. Hi, everyone. I'm very glad that you were in the room today. I feel honored to get to share this space with you. Before we get started, I just would love if at any point during our presentations you have an idea, question, or any input, please jot it down because probably the best part about the opportunity here today is to learn from all of you. So my name is Steve Burt. As Austin had said, we're here today to talk about the economic benefits of transit. Mainly we'll be talking about, how can we quantify the monetary gains that transit provides to its ridership and region. I will be discussing the different types of economic benefits that transit provides and a model that can be used to quantify these benefits. Brandon will be discussing why economic considerations are important for the City of Raleigh, and Alyssa will be talking about where we go from here, what are some of the next steps. Bringing it into context, how important is transit as a travel mode for individuals across the United States? In 2016, nearly half of our nation's states put a transit ballot measure up for a referendum, and of those ballot measures, approximately 2/3 were approved. So that's the voters in those regions willingly opted to pay more in sales tax, property tax, or other measures to support enhancements in transit. If you take a look at the map, the red pins, those denote areas where you can see sales tax increases. The green denote property tax increases, and blue are other measures. As most of you in this room may know, Raleigh was one of the regions that put a sales tax measure on the referendum during the 2016 ballot cycle, and it successfully passed. 53% of voters approved a half-cent increase in sales tax, and in addition, an increase in vehicle registration fees. By fiscal year 2018, there should be approximately $85 million in revenue available for transit and rail projects across the region. Now, because that referendum was successful, Raleigh's warehouse district is quickly becoming a multimodal hub for the region. If you take a look at the triangular parcel, That white building in that parcel will become the new Amtrak station. And then if you follow that arrow, that's the old Dillon Supply Warehouse building, and that's going to become the Raleigh Union Station bus facility. Both facilities are expected to have office space in it and potentially apartment rental space that can generate additional revenue for Wake County. So amidst all these exciting investments that are going on in Wake County, there have also been substantial advancements in the academic world. And the Small Urban and Rural Transit Center had released a groundbreaking study in 2015. It was published by the Transportation Research Board of the National Academy of Sciences. And this study really made two things possible for transit planners across the United States and really around the world. The first was that it put forth a methodology that transit planners could use everywhere to calculate the economic effects of transit. And then the second thing was that it showed that without transit, some trips would just not be taken. So in the absence of transit, many people would find their ways to destinations with other modes. So for example, they might take a car, get a ride from a friend, bike, walk, or hail a taxi or Uber. But 1 out of 5 trips would just completely disappear. They would not be made because people would not have the convenience or low-cost option of transit. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, CERTSI had developed that methodology that makes things possible for transit providers everywhere to look at the economic effects of transit. There are 2 main sort of branches to think about when looking at the ways to quantify the economic effects of transit. There are economic impacts, and those come from any sort of expenditure that's made. So think of a transit agency might have a capital or operations expenditure. Any sort of expenditure that's made, that money circulates through the economy and supports jobs, wages, gross regional product, and additional tax revenue. And now there's another side, the wider economic benefits. These are the benefits that everyday riders that use transit get to experience. So they, instead of taking other modes, may experience savings that are presented in vehicle operating costs, travel time, emission, collision, or congestion savings. And then also, I mentioned before those trips that could potentially disappear. Transit offers trip generation benefits. Those induced trips enable people to make medical trips, go to work, and they enable people to go to shopping destinations or seek out social and leisure destinations. Now, just kind of digging into that methodology a little bit more, if you can remember on that one side, there was the traditional economic impacts. These impacts are modeled through input-output models. Some of you in this room may have heard of InPlan, TREDIS, RIMS2, REMI. There's a bunch of models that can be used to look at traditional economic impacts, again, how those expenditures filter through the economy. And those have direct, indirect, and cumulative effects as they circulate through the economy. So to give an example, let's say Go Raleigh was interested in purchasing a bus that would operate on the R line. That purchase would help support the earnings of a bus manufacturer directly. And then indirectly, it would help a supplier who would provide materials to the manufacturer. When the bus manufacturer and the parts supplier take their earnings and spend it in the regional economy, let's say 2 staff members, one from one bus manufacturer, one parts supplier decide, let's go out to our favorite restaurant and spend it. That provides a cumulative impact where it's supporting earnings for a staff member at a local restaurant. So these are the ways that traditional economic impacts work. There's an expenditure. That expenditure circulates through the economy and supports jobs, wages, gross regional product. Now, on the other side, there's wider economic benefits. And again, these are the benefits that riders feel. So someone may feel less vehicle operating costs, time savings, congestion, emissions, or collision savings. Or additionally, with those induced trips, they'll be able to take medical, shopping, work, or leisure trips. Now, I apologize that this slide is very busy, but I would like to use vehicle operating costs as an example for how the model works. And I assure you it's not as difficult or complicated as it may seem on the slide. Basically, you're just looking at what the costs an individual would incur taking transit versus the cost that they would incur taking a mode that they would choose in the absence of transit. So for example, Go Raleigh has an estimated daily ridership of around 23,000 people. So if those individuals tomorrow were told, bus service stops, we're no longer providing that service, 13% would choose to get to their destination with a vehicle, 12% would, with a personal vehicle, 12% would taxi or take an Uber, 23% would get a ride with a family member or friend, 4% would bike, 26% would walk, and then about 22% of those trips would just disappear entirely. So for each of those alternative types of trips, there's a cost structure that's associated with that. You compare the cost structure of the alternative trip to the cost structure of transit, and that difference will either give you a cost or a benefit. As you can see on the red, those are some of the costs. Transit is more expensive than biking or walking, as you would guess, but it's much less expensive than getting a ride from a taxi or getting a ride from a friend or even driving in your car. So if you take that methodology and you apply it beyond transportation cost savings, or beyond vehicle operating costs to the other categories of transportation cost savings, such as travel time costs, emissions, safety, congestion, you can see for each trip what the wider economic benefits of transit are in terms of transportation cost savings. So putting those all together, we estimate that each transit trip provides its riders a saving of about 62 cents. Now that was one piece. If you remember, there was transportation cost savings and also the trip generation benefits. Those were the wider economic benefits of transit. This other piece, this trip generation benefits, these are the trips that potentially would disappear in the absence of transit. So you look at the frequency of those trips, and then you take that times the number of, by looking at trip purpose, the number of trips that would be made, and you can see that there are medical cost savings. When people go to work, it's almost like a double benefit. Individuals get to earn wages, but they also, many riders are transit dependent, and if they're not able to make it to their work destination, they may have to accept government transfer payments in terms of SNAP or TAMP benefits. So being able to make that trip enables an individual to make more money and potentially no longer need to receive those benefits or those transfer payments from the government. So then there's also commercial trips and social and leisure trips that have a benefit as well. At this time, I would like to hand it off to Transportation Planner from City of Raleigh, Brandon Watson.
Hey everyone, I'm Brandon. I'm going to try not to cough a lot up here. I'm going to go over a few slides over why economic considerations matter when it comes to transit planning at a bus system level, specifically the City of Raleigh Go Raleigh system. This map shows Go Raleigh coverage to various locations that are economic drivers in Wake County. These assets can be mapped and monetized to show the economic benefits transit routes provide to their ridership and the region as a whole. It includes just some of the major destinations such as shopping centers, employment centers, medical, and social leisure opportunities. As you can see from the map, a lot of the end of the lines of many of our routes serve these destinations. You can see some of the medical facilities in red, like Wake Med North and Duke Raleigh, some schools, universities in yellow, some of the employment centers and shopping opportunities like Triangle Town Center or Briar Creek in blue. And then there's a couple of parks that are pretty popular in the area in green. GIS applications for transit help us to determine the different economic and quality of life characteristics each route provides. We're also currently working on enhancing our performance measurement system to meet MAP 21 and FASTAC objectives, as well as City of Raleigh objectives like the city strategic plan and internal departmental goals. We use different types of data to track and monitor how well we're performing in various categories, including passenger amenities and customer satisfaction, which we get a lot of that from surveys. Economic performance measures are important for us because they help us evaluate how we're contributing to the well-being of riders and the region's economy. We're currently in the process of determining which economic metrics would be the most beneficial for us. For example, it's useful for us to track what % of the region's jobs, wages, and gross regional product is supported through our transit expenditures. It's also useful for us to know the safety, congestion, and out-of-pocket savings our ridership experiences by taking transit. A good example of this is we were recently approved funding for the state's first signal priority system through Campo's locally administered projects program. It's basically going to be about 14 signals between I-440 and I-540 on Capitol Boulevard that would be a signal priority for the buses. Evaluating economic metrics are extremely useful in determining where to place projects such as that one, and if they are even feasible or not in our system. There's a couple of reports that are some good examples of what the state of the practice is for economic performance and performance measures in general. They're up here. It's the Transit Cooperative Research Program and the Florida Department of Transportation's best practices. We're currently looking at best practices of other urban transit agencies for performance measure adoption here at Go Raleigh. This slide kind of shows how funding ties in with all of this. The Federal Transit Administration provides funding through its Mass Transit Fund to public transit agencies across the country. Approximately $2.3 billion, or about 18% of their allotment, is provided through the New Starts and Extensions program, as you can see here highlighted in green. This program provides funding for bus rapid transit investments, which Go Raleigh and the other local agencies in the region are going to be competing for as a part of the Wake Transit Plan that Steve was talking about. There are 4 corridors that were included in that Wake Transit Plan: Capitol Boulevard to the north, New Bern Avenue to the east, to Wake Med, South Wilmington Street to the south, and Western Boulevard from downtown Raleigh to Cary. As you can see from the slide, economic development is one of the 6 primary categories the FTA uses to evaluate for awarding funding. In addition to federal funding, Go Raleigh also competes for state funding, and through the Strategic Transportation and Investment Funds distributed by NCDOT. These funds basically enhance the state's infrastructure while supporting economic growth, job creation, and a high quality of life. We compete for these funds through the local metropolitan planning organization, and you can see by the criteria highlighted in green the economic justifications, which are really important for Go Raleigh to secure this type of funding as well. A good example of this is the New Hope Road Transfer Facility competed for regional STI funds. It's basically going to create an off-street facility in East Raleigh for different routes that come through there. Each project that receives STI funding through the strategic mobility formula has different requirements for receiving funding, which can include cost-benefit analysis as well as economic competitiveness. Now I'm going to hand it off to Alyssa Randall, who is the GIS analyst and environmental planner with Planning Communities.
Thanks, Brandon. Okay, so as Steve said earlier, I'm going to discuss where we go from here. So we have this wider economic benefits of transit. We understand that. And now we want to take it to more of a micro level. We want to look at individual ridership and the benefits that they are receiving. So we want to get people excited to use public transit, and we want them to be able to understand the benefits that they're receiving. So how do we do that? We build an app, of course. People love apps. So this is something that anybody can access. You just download it to your phone, and it would be similar to kind of a carbon footprint calculator if you've done one of those before. So basically how we go about building this. So we're in the very beginning phases of app development. And the meat of it is going to be the actual existing networks, so the transit lines and the transit stops, as you can see up here. And then we use a tool such as Network Analyst. So the rider would put in their origin and destination. So I'm getting on the bus at this stop, I'm getting off here. Using that Network Analyst, it's going to be able to map the distance. And using the distance, that then gets put into the spreadsheet that Steve talked about earlier that's calculating those economic benefits. And then it's going to calculate your benefits per mile on a per mile basis. And we also want to link trip purpose in there. So are you going to work? Are you going shopping, medical, leisure? Because again, all of those have a different level of economic benefit. So we want to have the riders see their own personal benefit and then how they are benefiting the wider region as well. So in creating these tools with agencies, what are some core steps and best ways to move forward? So with the last few minutes that I have, I'm going to make this interactive because you guys look tired. And I want to ask, if you were a user of this app, what are some things that you would like to see in it, right? I said we're in the beginning phases of app development, and I have all of these extremely smart people in one room. And so I would love to get some of your opinions and things that you would like to see as we progress through the development of this app. So, sure. Sure, yeah. So just to repeat, he said that we want to make sure that we are encompassing everybody and we're not forgetting about the dignity of the current transportation riders. Anything else? Yes? Definitely, I agree. So he said he wants to include the environmental aspects of it, highway maintenance, because economics is a very broad category. So to kind of hone in on these different things, I agree on the environmental side. Actually, in the back. Yep. Yes. Yeah, great feedback. So he wants the efficiency aspect put into the tool.
Imagine you're kind of visiting a city for a first time too, and you get ridership about its input of destination. So now, using the app to calculate which bus they need, and if you added to that, obviously where the bus is, maybe the pickup time, if you could actually utilize the bus and then project that data into the app, and now you've got people actually using it, not only might give you the information you want for the purpose of the trip,
Yeah,
or perhaps a reward system that, you've made 6 trips, here's a free trip, thank you for participating.
great feedback. Yeah, so he said to have to put in kind of like rewards for if you've done so many trips, and then to kind of put in the bus logistics as well. So put in times that they're coming, where the stop's at. Great information, yeah.
Maybe you could also provide types of infrastructure that can work here, like maybe provide sidewalks, just sidewalks that go stops or the destination. Because sometimes you get off the bus and there's no sidewalks, so you got it's very dangerous sometimes. So,
Yeah, great stuff. So including that multimodal, those multi-use paths, that kind of thing. Yeah, great stuff.
I guess kind of building what you said, kind of maybe have like within a half mile, quarter mile, maybe activity centers or something. There's commercial opportunities or water nearby or something. So I might not know that. So if I get on the bus line or something, I use your app, I can get to the destination. Like, oh, okay, cool, I know this is here. So that takes them across the road on the drive or takes me around something like that way.
Yeah, so including places of interest, destinations. Mm-hmm.
So in North Carolina, a lot of our transit agencies are more rural areas of the state. Providing this kind of information in that response transportation would be valuable. Because a lot of people do it every day, but don't really know what the impact is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, demand response transportation. Yes.
Maybe being able to share it with someone else. If I have someone coming in from a different state, give them the direction of the bus they take to get my place.
Yes, good stuff. So being able to share it. Mm-hmm.
I was going to piggyback off that. Somehow making it like social, right? Like so you get a chance to maybe build social capital around the riders, maybe some data on like how people want to be on the bus or the rider. I don't know. There's some way to try to make that connection.
Okay, yeah, social capital aspect. Sure. Yeah, last one.
Okay, so I know certain routes, not just transport, but within the city, at 6 times a day, you could be waiting at a stop for a bus or a taxi.
Mm-hmm.
And you could know ahead of time that the next bus order doesn't have during the blue line. You can plan accordingly. So that would be something I would look at too, and you could kind of keep track of.
Yeah, so maybe like current ridership numbers. Yeah. All right, well, thank you for all of your great feedback. That's awesome. We're going to take all of it back with us when we work in developing this app, so you guys are rock stars. And then at this time, if you guys have any last minute questions, anything you want to throw in, I know we're running close on time. All right, well, thank you so much. Oh, sure.
So if you had to describe the average frequency of go, when is the next bus?
It would all just depend on which route we have. Right now we have 2 high frequency corridors that are every 15 minutes, but all the rest of them are every 30 minutes and every 60 minutes. The way transit plans, that's going to increase a lot.
Can you tell me if you're not a way to calculate like
there's good ideas because there are some lots of similar characteristics that would make sense to run together, and then those are definitely good.
You might actually be doing some of that around also. We're looking at the double numbers and like the long-range plan. That's what we might be.
All right. Thank you, guys.
And thank y'all very much.